and welcome back to my channel. Once again, this is Mental Health with Melissa. I'm Melissa. If you're new here, please like and subscribe. I post new videos every single Sunday and Wednesday, and subscribing to my channel really helps me get mental health information out there to our communities of color and to those that are interested in studying for the LCSW exam, as I have tons of free LCSW test prep information on my channel. And coming up, I have a test prep study program. So in the link below, you're going to see, or a description box below, you're going to see a link if you're interested in receiving that study prep program. It's not going to be ready for the next few months, so just want to make sure that you know that, but I can send it out in more information if that's something that you're interested in. And for those of you that have just found my channel, I am a therapist, LCSW, clinical supervisor, and PhD psychology research student. Today we're going to be continuing on our developmental series theories. And so we've already explored the developmental stages of Margaret Mahler, of Erikson, of Piaget, and now we're ending it with our series on Freud. So stay tuned for that. So I wanted to make sure before we get right into the test prep question that you have some information about the Sigmund Freud psychoanalytic theory of personality, and that's what our test prep question in this video is going to be about. In the second part of this video, the test prep question will be more about the stages of development. But today we're going to focus on the key points here. So very briefly, I think it's important to get some information about Sigmund Freud's theory of personality and how it really argues that human behavior is the result of interactions among these really three main parts of the mind. So the id, the ego, and the superego. So this theory is really the basis of Freud's structural theory of personality, and there's so much emphasis on the unconscious and the subconscious and behavior and personality, and interactions among these parts of the mind are thought to progress through the 5 distinct psychosexual stages of development, which again, we're going to talk about that in the next part of this video, or the next video. So we're going to have this video focusing on the id, superego, and ego, and we're going to have the video after this video focus on the psychosexual stages of development. So really, according to Freud, what you need to know is our personality develops from interactions among his proposal of the 3 fundamental structures of the human mind, which really involved the id, ego, and superego, as I mentioned. And these 3 structures really involve different levels of desires and how we behave and approach the world. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this one picture I want to show you. So this is the perfect sort of picture. I've seen this when I took my Psych 101 course up until, more recently. What if you're looking at an image and what each of these kind of represent, these 3 main areas, it really helps us understand where each of these personality sorts of development are. So we'll start with the very bottom where the unconscious is. So there's the id, and the reason why it's at the very bottom is because that's really where the primary and primitive desires are. So that's where we really want to satisfy like our instant need or our desires or instant gratification, and it operates unconsciously. So for example, like a little baby may really want a toy or something, and they see another baby playing with the toy, and they don't care that the other baby is playing with the toy, and the other baby may cry if it takes it away because they want it. So they rip the toy out of the other baby's hand, and the other baby's crying, but they are happy. So that's the id. That's the, I want that now, and we're not going to think about the consequences. Now, if we're going up to the left over here, the superego is kind of, as you can see, halfway in and halfway out. So it's not fully unconscious, it's not fully conscious, it's like there's a little bit peeking out in both. So there in the superego, there's a conscious and there is somewhat of a moral compass, and this is when a child really understands that their culture may view certain things as right or wrong. And in that last example that I gave, the baby or the kid may want that toy but would not take the toy because they may understand that may be rude. So they may ask the kid, like, can I have that toy? As opposed to just pulling it out. So you can see that there's, that's the major difference there. If the id has not really been developed, then it's likely that in the superego, the kid may still take the toy from the other baby. And then that leads us to the ego, which is, mainly outside of the water. And the ego is really, focusing on these fundamental sorts of abstract ideas. And so Freud really looked at this as a balance, to balance the id and the superego. And instead of, taking that toy away from the other kid, the superego is going to tell that person that, it would be rude to take away that toy, and, I should go and buy my own toy, or I should go and ask my mom for my own toy. So that's the main difference between the ego and the superego, and those are the main differences in general between the three. So Freud believed that the id, ego, and superego are always in constant conflict with each other, and that personalities and behaviors, like as adults, are really rooted in these struggles from childhood. So this is going to be really important when we're thinking about the psychosexual stages of development that Freud really preached. Again, that's going to be in the next video. And the reason why is because these are some of the foundations of understanding, these desires and these unconscious and conscious sort of thoughts, and why they are very important. So let's go ahead now and get into the test prep question. John wants to get a puppy. However, he knows that he cannot take care of the puppy, and his mom would likely be the one who walks and feeds the puppy. He decides to just get the puppy anyway. According to Freud, John is displaying which of his three pleasure-seeking structures? So option A, the id. And again, as we mentioned in the id, it's the instant gratification and pleasure seeking without thinking about consequences. That is exactly what this scenario looks like. So we're going to go ahead and highlight that, but let's still take a look at the other options. Superego. So the superego, there would be some sort of moral compass involved. John may, say like, well, I want to make sure that I talk it through with my mom first, because she's probably going to be the one that ends up taking care of the puppy. He doesn't do that, so that's not the answer. And then lastly, the ego. And the ego, John may really be having more complex thoughts. I don't have time to take care of a puppy. My mom doesn't have time to take care of a puppy. So really, it's not the best idea. And I probably shouldn't get a puppy and act on my impulses right now. But that's not what's going on in the vignette. So that's not the answer. So we have the id as the answer. And again, we know this because this is the very main pleasure-seeking sort of structure between these three sorts of components that Freud has come up with. So that is going to be your answer. Thank you so much for watching. Please, again, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for more content. Until next time, managing mental health matters.